Alright everyone, in this tutorial we're going to show you how to make the clip that I played for you at the beginning, as well as a similar clip in the BCSO trailer with a charger pitting a vehicle. I had a request to make this video, so I hope this helps. If you have any other requests, feel free to leave them in the comments and I can try to accommodate as many of them as possible. So to start this, you need to get a clip of you doing a pit maneuver on a vehicle, whether that's your friend driving the car or an AI. Okay, so this is the clip we just recorded. We approach the car's running away, and I pit maneuver the car, and that's the end of the clip. So to start, you want to make sure that you're close enough to the vehicle, so probably around here, like right here, so that this next function can reach the AI. So you see what I mean in a second. So we're going to be using a control on the camera called Move with Target. Essentially this takes the camera and it mounts it to either an AI or to your player, so that it moves with it consistently. I don't typically use this a whole lot because I think it looks a little bit robotic, but in this case we will use it, and you'll see why in a second. So to start, you want to select the AI that's running away. You can see that it's indicated by this little blue arrow. So in this case they're target 1, but there might be multiple targets in the scene, so in this case we locked onto like a bunny or something. So make sure you're choosing the correct target. And then the next thing you're going to do is switch the mount type to rigid. The difference between rigid and flexible is rigid mount type almost bolts the camera to wherever you're placing it, so the camera won't allow for any movement whatsoever. Flexible just allows for a little bit more movement side to side, and it looks a little bit more natural if you're doing a chasing scene, but still not great. So for this one we're going to be using the rigid mount type, and you'll see why in a second. So the next step is to take the camera and put it in the back window of the car you're chasing. So I'll go over here, sit in the back seat, and then you can choose what kind of zoom you want to do. For this one I'll just keep it pretty zoomed in, and then bring it out a little bit so you can see the window. Just a little, just like that. So we'll go ahead and play the clip and you can see what it looks like. So as you can see, it's not exactly the clip that we played at the beginning yet. We still have to do some edits to make it look good. We're going to also add a little bit of time on the end here just so that we have a little bit more spin. Okay, so the next step is to have the camera follow the car just so that we can see it better, because as you can see, the car comes up and we kind of lose sight of it here, and then we spin and it doesn't really look that great. So we're going to go to the part where the pit is, probably around here. We're going to take the camera, we're going to tilt it towards where the car is. Now the blend mode you use for this doesn't really matter, so I'm just going to use smooth with linear or with blend easing on. You can play around with which one looks best for you, but already that's looking a little bit better. So one thing I've noticed is you kind of lose sight of it behind this big black barrier, so I'm going to take the camera and I'm going to just move it out a little bit like that. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, so now the car is pretty much in frame and it looks pretty good. So the last thing you need to do, which is probably the easiest part of the whole thing, is take the camera, go to the shake option and select the ground vibration. And now this is up to you how you want to do this. I'd play around with the settings, but the more shake, the more intense it looks. So already it's bouncing a lot. What you can also do is increase the speed of the bounce if you're like really trying to go for it. So one second, let it load. So you can take shake speed and jack it up so it's like really crazy if you want, but I think that's a little bit much, so I'm going to keep it at 100%. Even that's a little bit much. Drop it down one more. It's like 6. I kind of like that. Just move this camera up a tiny bit. So. Okay, so that looks pretty good. And then the last thing we need to do is add an explosion shake when the car hits the AI car. If you watch the video back on the BCSO trailer, the one I played at the beginning, there's a severe shake once the car hits, and that just gives the effect that the car just hit the AI vehicle. So right there is the impact, right there. So what you can do is add a marker for the cameras, and just go to shake, and you're going to add an explosion. And then I tend to make this one pretty large, so maybe like an 8 or 9, depending on how intense you want it. Now let's see what that looks like. Oh. So I'm actually going to be switching this to linear because we added another marker, so just keep it linear and it'll look fine. But let's go ahead and See what that looks like. So that looks pretty good. Go ahead and turn it off for this. So if you look at it, what I did was I just added the little marker where the impact is, had an explosion play, so it looks like the car hit it, and the explosion effect kind of masks any imperfections in the camera movement or anything, so you don't really have to worry about that. But yeah, so that's basically how I did the shot. Maybe add a tiny bit more ground vibration speed. Just make it look. And this is obviously not perfect, but you can toy with it as much as you want. But that's essentially it. You can use this effect for different variations of this if you want. You don't have to necessarily be in the car. You could do it from the perspective of the police officer. And basically just kind of use this any way you need. But that is how I made the shot. So hope this helped. And if you have any other requests, feel free to put them in the comments.